Hello, everyone.
Just a minute.
Okay. So then you start and then I will also.
You can start now.
Okay, hello, everyone. I'm happy to see you, though I don't see anyone, but I believe that you will find some value in what I want to share. And now let me please share my presentation and we will start from that. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen. And let me introduce the topic and myself. So my name is ULIANA NIKOLAEVA. I'm from Russia. And today I want to talk about a very interesting trend in education and very interesting trend not only in education for children or young adults, but also for professionals. It's basically developing key competencies through digital learning. Why did I choose that topic? Because I'm doing my master's in digital pedagogy, and this is the topic of my thesis. So that's exactly the area which I want to dig more and learn and develop and research more. So now what I want to say about myself. So I'd like to introduce myself. So as I said, my name is ULIANA NIKOLAEVA. I'm a business trainer. I'm a lecturer. So I'm lecturing in Linguistic University at the Linguistic University and at some private schools as well. So I'm also doing my own business, and I'm more involved in bilingual education because I believe that, that there is a future for bilingual education. More languages we know, more people in the world we can communicate with, and more interesting areas we can understand and be involved in. And of course, I would like to thank the International Internship University for that opportunity to speak to you today. So International Internship University is a leading virtual education system, and it's the global brand confederation, which is the most valuable and trusted worldwide, and it's well reputed in delivering innovative programs. So globally, it is a trusted name for quality training programs, and it is committed to provide better and virtual education to all the young learners of the globe. That now, especially after COVID, the digital education, the online education is the thing, is the trend, which a lot of educators, and now not only small educators, but even big educators, the global educators are following. And of course, that should be developed further. And we see the bright future for this type of education. So the International Internship University, they kind of following the trend, and they are doing their best in that sense. In a short span of time, this university has spread its wings into 195 countries and 6 continents under the strong leadership of its visionary founder, Mr. Piyush Pandit, and who is committed and inspiring social activist and the passionate educationist from the last 2 decades. And he's providing education to students from various social and cultural backgrounds. So that's basically global brand, which is suitable for not only one country, but for all different countries and different nationalities, different cultural groups. And the education which they deliver is up to the standard of the 21st century. So we'll come back to our topic, what I wanted to share with you. That's, as we mentioned in the beginning, developing key competencies through digital learning. And with that, we have to understand what is actually digital learning, what it is, and how it's different from the classical, from traditional learning. You can see the picture here. Yeah, you can see the book and you can see the computer. So it's like simplest description of the digital education. It's education through electronic devices. And of course, as I mentioned here, the main competence through the digital learning, what we develop is learning to learn. Why I mentioned that? Because the digital learning, that's not a traditional teaching in its own sense. So that is mostly facilitated self-learning, because traditional teaching methods can be applied in digital learning, but still the nature of that, it's how we can learn using that digital devices, and it's facilitated self-learning. And we have to deal with that. And not only us as students, but educators also have to deal with that, because that kind of gives the challenges. Yeah, it's basically make them to face the challenges in delivering materials, in delivering information to the student. And there are new ways, and there are new possibilities and opportunities, and different methods which can be used. So first of all, let's understand what are competences, because if we talk about delivering, if we talk about developing competences through digital learning, first of all, we have to describe, we have to identify what it is, what are the competences. So competences are the knowledge, skills, abilities, and behaviors that contribute to individual and organizational performance. So that definition is given by a National Institute of Health. So there's an Office of Management and Office of Human Resources that given that definition. So knowledge itself, yeah, is information developed or learned through experience, study, or investigation. Skill is the result of repeatedly applying knowledge or ability. And ability is an innate potential to perform mental and physical action or task. Behavior is the observable reaction of an individual to certain situation. The target proficiency level for each competency will vary based on an individual position and organizational need. So what we are talking about, the competencies, that's the combination, yeah, that's the all of those together. So it's not only the knowledge, that's not only the skill, that's not only abilities, that's all together combined with the behavior. But behavior means also like our character, our personality, personal qualities. So that's very interesting term, and we will talk more about that further. So according to the dictionary, because we still have to define the what competencies are. So according to the dictionary, competencies means capability. So a person has to be capable of doing something. True, we use it to mean someone has a sufficient qualification. It comes from the word compete, means that someone with competency is good enough to compete with other candidates. So you see, so interesting. Yeah, the word competency means that it comes from the word compete. So your ability to compete. If you pass the medical board exams, for example, then you have medical competency. Most jobs require that you show competency either through certification or on the job performance. If you keep faking injuries to get out of saving people, someone will eventually question your competency as a lifeguard, right? For example. So what we have to understand that there are few definitions, so they can vary a little bit, because some of professional magazines, some professional bodies, they are giving a definition which can be a little bit different from the dictionary itself, but still we can understand a region of that word, the competencies. Yeah, many people use the word skill and competencies interchangeably, so they don't really see the difference between skills and competencies. There are some differences in what these terms mean. While a skill typically relates to a single proficiency, competencies more often encompass a ground of related strengths. So learning about the differences between skills and competences can help to use those terms more accurately and better articulate your core strengths in the workplace. In this basically a presentation, this article, we define that skills are, explain what competences are, outline different types of skills and competences and compare them. So here I also mentioned what skills are. So basically the definitions of skills as a strengths or proficiencies that individuals gain through training and experience. So there are ways how you can improve your skills. In the workplace, professions apply skills to achieve results. For example, a manager uses leadership skills to guide and motivate the members of their team. Leadership skills, let's say, can include proficiencies in abilities like communication, delegation, time management, and problem solving. Many workplaces include a list of key skills they prefer in candidates and applying for specific position. When candidates know their skills and can express how they plan to apply their skills to the position, it helps hiring managers deciding whether they have the right abilities for the role or they don't. And there are two types of skills, including soft skills and hard skills. So we have a soft skills that is, they call them also interpersonal skills, because they are generally used like in communication between people. So soft skills refer to non-technical skills, yeah, and this interpersonal non-technical skills that individuals possess. So these skills aren't industry specific. So it's not, it means that you don't have to use it for some particular industry. You can use it everywhere in your everyday life, meaning that they can be applied in broad range of roles in most occupation fields, and as I mentioned, in general life as well. So those skills are adaptability, dependability, problem solving, critical thinking, teamwork, organization, time management, conflict resolution. Those skills are considered to be soft skills. And then hard skills. So those are technical abilities that professionals need to perform their role in particular industry. Those skills include knowing how to use specific tools or equipment to complete the role, to achieve the goals, right? It can also involve a specialized industry knowledge, how to work with certain types of software or coding language or any like technical device. So it's very specific and very industry related skills, those are. And so then we come to the question, what are competences? So competences are a set of demonstrable proficiencies and abilities that individuals use to achieve a goal or complete a task. They typically combine skills, abilities, and knowledge, and can include the specific behavior an individual carries out to succeed in their position. For example, patient care skills are often a core competency for professionals in healthcare. And for candidates looking for a job in the health industry, communicating their competencies in patient care may involve identifying specific skills that contribute to their caregiving, along with any professional attributes or behavior habits they use when serving patients. So, for example, if you want to become a teacher, so there are some competencies you have to have, or if you want to become a software developer, there are also some competencies which you have to have. So those are different and depend on industry. They can have like a different range of the competencies it will be asked from you, right? And types of the competence. So there are few types of the competencies. Typically, they divide it to the 3 categories. Those categories include behavioral or life skill competencies. functional or technical competencies and professional competencies. So according to the name of those, you can see where it is related to, right? So what we are talking about. And here on the picture, you can see the basically diagram, the artwork on what actually competencies and skills are. So you can see that competence include skills, knowledge, ability, and that's not just only one thing. So knowledge is just what we know, it's what you know, and competence is a knowledge put into action by the learner in the learning environment, or in brief, what you would do if you could do it. So it's not just a knowledge, it's not just a skill, it's basically the combination of those. It's what you would do if you could do that. So competences, again, the definition, yeah, it's combination of observable and measurable. I'm sorry, I got a little bit sick. So the combination of observable and measurable knowledge, skills, abilities, and professional attributes that contribute to enhance employee performance and ultimately result in organizational success. So that's very broad, and it's very complex, not complex, comprehensive, yeah, whatever. It's a huge term which involves many interesting moments. And then we come to the next point. So the next point is, so okay, we got what competences are. Then why do we have to learn them, right? So who said that we have to learn them? That's interesting question. I mean, though many people and the professionals and the educational institutions, educational forums, they talk about that. So I wanted to show you something, you know, something in paper, right? So something that proves some really valuable and respectable body, which says that, yeah, you have to learn that. And that's the, for example, in front of you, you can see the Cambridge Life Competencies Framework. So that's a framework which basically put out by Cambridge Press University. So Cambridge University Press, yeah. So the Cambridge University, they are talking about why do we need to learn those competences, and what are life competences, and why it's so important to learn those competences. And most important, Cambridge kind of show and clarify what are the most important competences which required from professionals or just people in the 21st century. So yeah, now what we will see, we will see the list of those competences which Cambridge mentioned as the most important competences in 21st century. So we are talking about creative thinking, right? That's the learners actively participate in creative activities, generate new ideas, and use them to solve problems. So it's basically thinking out of the box. It's possibility to find a solution which didn't exist before. Then critical thinking. Learners identify patterns and relationship, evaluate ideas, and use those skills to solve problems. That's about analyzing the information. That's about understanding why, how, who. So there are 6 critical questions. We will not really stop on that now. So each of those, it's a big topic. It's a separated big lecture, and sometimes even workshop for 1 week or even 1 month. It's a huge area to research. We will just briefly touch on those. And then learning to learn. That's the competence which I mentioned in the beginning, because digital education and the competence of learning to learn new information, they are really connected. And that's the very interesting competence, because there's another word in psychology. That word is metacognition. So who was doing educational psychology, they should know that word. Metacognition means thinking about thinking. So it's kind of that person thinks about the way the person itself thinks, the way the person learns, the way the person consume information, process that information, use that information. So it's ability to analyze your own thinking. So that competence is also mentioned by Cambridge as one of the most important. And then communication. Of course, communication, you can't really deny that. All your life, everything what you meet in your life is communication. And that's funny because some people, there are software developers, let's say people who are mostly working with the machines, with the computers, they say that no, we don't communicate to people, we just communicate with machine. But thing is that interesting thing, we will touch a little bit on that later on. Even communication with machine, that is also communication, because that has the same rules. You use some particular language, you use some particular ways of communicating. There is some ethics, there is some rules which you have to apply. So to do successful communication even with machines today, and especially with consideration that artificial intelligence is using of artificial intelligence is growing up, and we have more machines involved in our daily life, even that communication becomes a thing, and more actually communication strategies now applied on that area. Then collaboration, teamwork, right? So the learners work together well and in groups, and through actively that they actually taken the part in the different group activities, and they are able to achieve the goals in the group, and work according to the roles, understand their role, understand the role of others. And then social responsibilities, that's very important competence, because we all social creatures. Humans are social creatures. We don't live separated from the society. So we have to follow some rules. We have to build ourselves in that society. So social responsibility, it's one of the competencies which are also very important. So learners recognize and describe different roles and responsibilities in a variety of groups, and understand cultural and global issues. So of course it is connected to the cultures, to religions, to the different social systems. End of the day, that's something which is very important and has to be considerable. So before that, so as I mentioned, we wanted to understand why do we need to learn those competencies. I think the Cambridge University, they answered that question. They said that that's a compulsory, that's something which you can't live without, those life competencies, the competencies of the 21st century, which you have to really learn. And then we come to the situation of teaching those competencies, because we can teach the knowledge, right? So we can just give people information through the digital learning. Let's say even what I do now, I'm basically I'm just giving you an information. I don't have any interaction with you. I'm just sharing with you my knowledge, the facts, right? So the facts which are just on the paper, and I'm just telling you about it. So I don't really develop in you much competences with that. So maybe some of that, because I'm trying to ask the questions, and I'm expecting you to maybe within yourself to answer those. And even that simple type of education method, like educating method, right? That simple method still develops some of those competences. Let's say if we will look at the competences, we see like creative thinking. Does it develop that? So I mean, I don't think so, right? Critical thinking, yeah, I guess you can evaluate my words, and you can think whether I'm talking sense or not, and whether you need it or not, and maybe you will think about some other ways how you can use the information I'm sharing with you. Then learning to learn. Yeah, of course, I'm trying to make you to actually think on how would you find other ways to learn about that, and then it is developing that competence in you. Communication, I don't think so. Collaboration, social responsibilities might be, right? So there are only like a couple of competences which can be developed through that type of teaching, and that's critically not enough, really. And because we need to develop in learners all those competences. And the question is that, okay, in offline environment, in the environment when we have a live classes, right? We come to the class, we meet people, then we can develop all of those. That's easy. So we can create different ways of the interacting with people. We can use different techniques, different methods. We can somehow build that learning environment to develop those competences in our offline class. But what to do with online? And that's the question, that's the problem, because after COVID, a lot of companies, a lot of educational institutions, like I mentioned, they went online, and that trend is still thriving. A lot of educational institutions, they provide education through digital devices. And like we said, we have to develop not only just give the knowledge, you have to develop competencies. And how to do that? And that's the question. So then now we will talk about what is digital learning, and there are different types of digital learning. I think you might know that, but I will just go briefly. So digital learning is the learning method based on the use of new digital tools to enable learners to learn in a different way, whether it be face-to-face, distance learning, or blended learning. So it's not really very simple question, but there are different methods. So e-learning and digital learning, what are difference? Because of the many abuses of language concerning these two terms, there is sometimes a tendency to oppose them or to consider digital learning as a kind of enhanced e-learning. In reality, however, e-learning is only one important pedagogical modality of digital learning, which is term encompasses all online learning methods and techniques. In other words, digital learning is the digitalization of the entire learning experience. Social learning, virtual meetings with professionals, online exams, networking, professional workshops, and etc. So there are types of this digital learning. So we are talking about formal digital learning, where technology is used to deliver formal course-based content. For example, there are some special programs which can be introduced to the end user without significant interaction with, let's say, training or learning professionals, peers, or managers. A significant industry has grown up around this type, spanning electronic content, authoring, content asset management, instructional design, and learning management. Yeah, there is informal digital learning, where technology provides opportunities to support informal workplace learning, mainly through forums. Okay. In many knowledge-intensive organizations, informal digital learning is linked with knowledge management. The collaborative media approach can play an important role in knowledge sharing among professionals communities. So this is also quite a popular and widely used way of digital learning. And then there is a blended or supported learning. So that's, I would say, we can meet it more often. So where formal and or informal learning may be combined, blended with other types of learning. So you can meet that type of learning more often, and because it's more flexible, I'd say. For example, the majority of learning content might be delivered through face-to-face lectures or coaching or through text materials, let's say. But the dialogue with other learners, collaborative activities, and searching for access supporting materials are all conducted online. So there are different ways of blended learning. You can like check more information about that. We unfortunately don't have really a lot of time to stop on those types. I just wanted to mention some of the most used forms of digital learning. So, for example, organization, they use a range of technologies to facilitate learning. So, because what we talk, we're trying to come to understanding on how to develop those competencies, those necessary competencies through digital learning, and what are the ways of using those. So, there are virtual learning environments. So we call it like online classrooms, right? Different platforms, they have something like that. And there are webinars and other forms of networked e-learning. So then there are social media apps, including Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Funny, right? Because a lot of people, they think that social media is just the entertainment area, but actually it's not. That's the huge educational platforms. So basically we get information from there, we believe that information, we memorize that information, we use that information in our life. So what it is learning, right? So social media learning, that's the one of those which can be used very effectively and talented by good manipulators and professionals, and that can be underestimated by people who don't really know about education. So then integration of smartphone technology into the learning environment, apps such as the Kahoot and Slido, there are others. Artificial intelligence and machine-based learning in the e-learning environment to push and suggest relevant content and the resources to employees. So that's also quite growing industry of artificial intelligence. There are even apps on the telephone, on the phone. You can just even download those, and it's pretty interesting. That's fast growing trend. So opportunity for knowledge sharing and management made possible by fusion of various technologies. So we will not really stop on them too much. You can easily find that information, and we will come to the next question. So of different teaching methods. So our question is how to teach, right? How to teach and how to learn competencies through digital tools. So the different teaching methods of digital learning. So as I said, there's virtual classrooms. So you can do a lot of different things, mostly like you can do the same things which you do in offline classroom, but with some limitation. And then there are games. So gamification of education, you know, that other way they call it edutainment. It's like entertainment and education. So gamification is also a major trend in education, especially in online education. They actually also bring those offline. So sometimes even offline classes now, they use digital gamification during their class. So it's interesting, but now let's talk about digital one. So games organized in various forms, simulations, gamification, they enable know how to be learned in a fun and sometimes collective way. So that way we can actually develop competences like collaboration, right? So when we are talking about games, we can develop different type of the competences, and it's not only just critical thinking, it can be collaboration, it can be communication as well, because in games we we still communicate with each other, even if it's like chat or something like that. Then massive open online courses. That's also quite widely used method. So the best known teaching method, it is based on the use of platform for training through videos, downloadable documents, quizzes, and etc. So those open online courses are very popular, and a lot of educational institutions, they develop their own online courses, and people can download them. They can go through them, they can complete them, sit for exam, also online exam, and they can get certified after the results would be calculated and analyzed. Then there are small private online courses similar to big one. This interactive training course has the particularity of being aimed at the smaller group of learners, which encourages interactivity with the trainer and ensures the learners are followed up. So generally they target those courses for small groups. So because with this situation, there is still a possibility to communicate with the trainer or with the teacher. That is also very important, because sometimes even to get a feedback or just ask a question, if there is a massive open online course, that is not possible. So you have to do just self-learning. But here you can communicate, so you can develop other competences as well, not just learning to learn competence or critical thinking competence. You also can communicate, you can collaborate with others, and basically it can be more effective, I guess. Mobile learning, at the same name suggests, this involves training from your smartphone, practice particularly suited for anytime, anywhere, any place learning experience. I guess you know why, yeah, because we all carry our smartphones everywhere, and that's the, I'd say, most affordable and the most easy to get, most easy to use device we always have with us. So it's silly to not use it for learning purpose, and we do use it for learning purpose, especially when it comes to social media, and that's good too. And then social learning, social and collaborative learning, based on the exchange and sharing of experience with the group. This more informal and collaborative learning method is also used in a complementary way in context of hybrid or face-to-face training. So social learning also can be used in digital learning, and of course, because it is collaborative, because it's more creative, it can develop develop various competencies like creative thinking, communication, collaboration, and of course the competencies of social responsibility. So those competencies can be developed through that ways of learning. And adaptive learning, this concept refers to the ultra customization of certain training courses to adapt to the needs of each learner. So specific modules and workshops, adapted training courses. So what we are talking here about is that we adapting the material to the need of the learner, and we maybe change it the way the learner would prefer it to be. Basically, there are a lot of things to say about that, and what we have to stop on, basically, what are the options, what are the ways using those techniques, those methods, those types of digital learning. How can we develop those competencies which Cambridge University talks about, which is really very important for each of us in 21st century, in our everyday life, in our professional life, in the different areas of our life. And here, I actually kind of thought through that, and I put together a few methods few techniques. You can even do the screenshot of those, and which you can use. Maybe you can just read more about that, because with our time, we really don't have a time to really stop on each of them for long and understand all of those. But just read more about them and see how you can use them in digital education as a teacher or as a learner. So first, I wanted to mention about TPR and CLIL methods. That's mostly for language learning, of course, but that can be used in different ways as well. Then Varg Test, then project-based learning, then role-playing and drama, social media and learning environment, PCD and Imaginarium. PCD, it's positive constructive daydreaming. It's like about self-learning. It's a superb tool which you can actually research by your own. And of course, there are digital tools. And we don't have to forget about coaching and training methods, because end of the day, coaching itself can be a very interesting way of teaching through digital environment. And here, I will just briefly run through TPR method, which is total physical response, which used a lot in language trainings, but can be used in other subjects as well. Then CLIL method, SLIL, yeah, stands for content and language integrated learning. That's very interesting way. It's basically when you learn the language by studying something using that language. Yeah, this means studying another subject, for example, science, history, or whatever, and learning a language, such, let's say, English, at the same time. So integrating the two subjects. So when you use the language, not as in science, like not as a science, but as an art, you use the language as a tool to acquire the knowledge. Not just as an object to learn. So very interesting methods. Then I wanted to mention about Varg Test. Varg Test, that's very widely used in trainings method. And I guess it's compulsory for digital teaching and digital training. And if you are the learner, you would actually do it for yourself, or you would suggest for your teacher to do that for you, because we all learn in different ways, and some of people, they are more visual, some people, they more auditory, read and write learners, or kinesthetic learners. So visual learners, they learn through pictures, movies, diagrams. Yeah, auditory, they more prefer music, discussion, lectures, so they learn by hearing the sound. And then reading and writing people, those people are, they like to read books, textbooks, make notes. And the kinesthetic learners, they like movement, they like experiments, they like to touch everything, to try it by their own. So each of us, we have a different styles of learning, and there's not only one. Generally, it's like percentage. So we have majority of that type, then less on that, and that understanding on the way how we learn best, that makes us to prepare the materials for learning, to prepare the teaching materials more effectively. So the teacher can teach in the more effective ways if teacher understands the style of learning of his or her students. So sometimes even the style, like the prevailing style of learning in the group, that makes the work easier and more effective for teacher. Then there's a project-based learning. So that's also very interesting concept, which started by John Dewey, and who recognized as one of the early basically scientists who were working with education, and who started that method by that is learning by doing. Yeah, so you can see the project-based learning actually develops a lot of different competencies like creativity, collaboration, critical thinking. And project-based learning is one of the techniques which can be used in digital, in online education. So what you can do, you can create a group of people, you can give them tasks to complete. then they can communicate between each other, then they come up with different solutions. They can basically create something new and they can present it. So there are multiple skills and competencies are trained, and it's not just learning by reading some material or watching some video. It's learning by doing. They will be searching, researching, and learning by themselves. They will be critically thinking about it. They will be creative about it. They will communicate. Then will collaborate with each other. They will adjust it to the social environment. So all of the competencies which Cambridge mentioned can be covered during project-based learning. So using that type of learning. Then social media. Social media, that's also, it's a huge tool. As I mentioned before, a lot of people, they undervalue, underestimate it. They think that it's like just simple, yeah. And even sometimes when, if you are a parent and you think that, okay, my child is sitting in his phone and his computer, like just in social media, you have to understand, you have to remember that your child, at the same time, your child learns, you know. And that's the question, what your child learns, right? Whether it's something you like your child to learn or not. But the learning is happening. That's we have to remember. And if used right, if used in the right way, right direction, that can be super powerful tool to actually consume, to acquire that knowledge. Basically, those who know that, they can use those devices and have a wonderful, like a fabulous results while using that method of education. Just think about it. Social media isn't bad, but it has to be used right, because it involves the continuous, consistent, never-ending learning. And we have to understand what do we need to learn or what we don't. And then in the end of the presentation, I wanted to talk about tools. Of course, that's the absolutely, it can be the topic of another 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 lectures, because each of the tools is it's special. It helps a lot. And I just mentioned here my favorite tools which I use during my online sessions. And of course I use more, but that's those are tools which I really love to use. So first, it's Mentimeter. You can see how the bird looks like, that the artwork, the logo. Then there are multiple mind maps. I didn't put all of them. There's a MindMeister, MindMaster. There's so many of them. There are mobile app based, there are PC based. There are so many different mind maps which are available. Then Miro. What is Miro? Miro, it's actually a real-time board, so where you can all connect and do together, to do the work together, and from all over the world you can arrange that work and let's say write or do different activities together on that board. Mentimeter, it's a graphs, that's the questionnaires, that's the word cloud. It's like many other interesting interactive elements which you can include in your PowerPoint presentation. So also to develop the competencies, to develop again communication in people, creative thinking, collaboration, all of those things can be developed because you can use that interactive tool during your presentation, during your digital class. And then, so Miro is a real-time board. A Quizlet, that's the one of the programs which can do quizzes. So there are multiple of them, so you can just do different questionnaires, different ways, different designs of the quizzes. So it's also make environment, your digital learning environment interactive and collaborative, and people can actually develop their skills and competences, not just memorize information. And Genially, that's also a wonderful tool you can use. And there are also different questionnaires, and even like, you know, these competitive questionnaires like in TV shows, when you have to choose one or two, like how to be a millionaire or something like that. So you have to just choose the right answer, then you can win. So you can program those programs, those online resources. You can program accordingly to your subject, and you can create your own games. So it's not just a gamification, it's like that edutainment which you can use during your program. And some of them actually free of charge. For example, Mentimeter is free of charge, Genially is free of charge, Quizlet is free of charge. And of course, my favorite one, that's the Zoom, because I'm a bit, you know, old school type of lecturer and teacher, and I like to communicate with people. And why I prefer Zoom, why I love Zoom, because you can have rooms, right? So you can just split people to the groups. You can create different rooms. You can make people to talk to each other. You can actually execute different type of the learning methods, like even project-based learning, and all of those you can actually execute during using that Zoom, because you can make people to group up, to team up, to come up with different solutions, to come up with different ideas, then come back together. You can make people to discuss, and what is more important, you can make people to see each other. So it can be almost like a live type of interaction that can be imitation of real life offline classroom, and that brings as close as possible, it brings us as close as possible to that comfortable human environment when people can communicate with each other, where people can actually develop those important life competencies which Cambridge talks about, and in the most comfortable human related and human accepted environment. So unfortunately, I don't really have much time to really stop off on each of them more. I just want to summarize what I mentioned for last 53 minutes. And like we discussed, that there are competences which has to be developed and which are the most needed and required in the 21st century, and that it's to have a knowledge or to have a skill, that's not enough today to survive, to compete. That's why it's a competence, abilities to compete, right? To compete in that crazy, fast, I don't know, world which is just developing and changing with the absolutely unreal speed, that we need to develop those competencies. And all of them are communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, learning to learn, and social responsibility. And because life made us to learn digitally, and that's the new trend, and that's comfortable trend, but we have to use different tools and techniques to still be able to develop those competencies through that digital environment. And there are options, there are ways, and I hope that my lecture was useful for you, and maybe you got some ideas, some thoughts on how to develop those important competencies in digital learning, and you will make your digital learning more interesting, more productive, more effective. So I guess thank you so much, and hope to see you sometime again in real life, not through the digital device. So thank you so much. See you guys.